Holy fuck, it's CC's Pizza, the only fucking pizza place to go when you're depressed and you want to become more depressed.
Like, gee willikers, this is the motherfucking all-you-can commentate buffet. Now I can force people to listen to me anytime I want, all the while using my totally not jack-off folder as my avatar. This place is like heaven to me.
So come on down to CC's Pizza today, or we'll commentate on your life. And no, none of this has to do with the video. So context, a poker tuber by the name of Relic did a video of the top 10 worst Pokemon abilities. Commentators Enigma fan My Gale Force 0192 covered that, Kirby Star Warrior and Luxor covered that video, which then we have the main subject of commentating, Joshua Pony, or Nintendo Switch Gamer Dude. He is a game dude, he is so rude. Also, I might as well address that this video has been deleted, and someone might try and say, oh, because he deleted it, he might not stand by it anymore. 1, implying I give a fuck. 2, there could be a multitude of reasons for him deleting the video, like fear out of backlash, or at the very least potential backlash. While I'm not gonna jump to that conclusion, it's at least worth keeping in mind that it could be one of the reasons. 3, implying I give a fuck. 4, this commentary can be done to show what not to do when making commentary, and 5, implying that I give a singular fuck. Try and make me give a fuck. Also, side note before I begin, for some reason there's a weird black box around the actual video, so just to keep the quality consistent, I'll be making the video fill up the whole screen.
Okay, Larry, it's time for the theme song. Nope, I don't want to do it. Play the theme song.
Starting off the list, we have the ability Illuminate. So unless you actually want to run into a lot of wild Pokemon, this ability completely sucks. If you forgot to stock up on repels when you're entering a route and have a Pokemon that leads your party with the ability Illuminate, the rate at which you encounter Pokemon is increased by 100%.
This is why you check your bag in advance to check for repels or buy more before heading off if you don't want to worry about running into wild mons. Or if you can, stay out of the grass in the first place.
Though quite frankly, I miss the musical power to her voice completely so that we wouldn't have to hear this point of hers. Gale, this does nothing to change Relic's point about Illuminate. Just because there are ways to get around the ability, that doesn't mean the ability isn't bad. But that's implying the suggestions you gave were actually good ones. Try to stay out of the grass? Yeah, real easy to do with the countless areas in the games where going through grass, caves, and other areas for wild Pokemon to pop out is required.
Ignoring the fact that she said if you can.
I mean, just because she said if you can, that really doesn't debunk anything that Kirby said, considering the fact that, as he said, going through them is required to progress through the game. So really, Gale's point doesn't work regardless of whether she says if you can, because, you know, in some cases, you fucking can't.
Now, your statement about stocking up on repels wouldn't be too bad. If it did anything to counter the possibility of somebody forgetting to stock up on them.
Ignoring the fact that not only wild Pokemon don't always appear, but it's common sense to at least try to get enough repels. And before you ask, if you want to catch Pokemon, then get Pokeballs. But that's not what you said in the first place, is it?
I mean, yeah, to some it may be common sense to stock up on repels, but at the end of the day, that really doesn't do much to Kirby's point, mainly because of the fact that we as people tend to forget things, and that can include things within a goddamn video game such as buying repels. Also, can I just address the fact that you cut out part of the video that is pretty crucial to Kirby's point?
Now, your statement about stocking up on repels wouldn't be too bad. If it did anything to counter the possibility of somebody forgetting to stock up on them. Meaning that your solution is basically, don't have this problem to begin with. And despite what several politicians might say, no, that isn't an actual solution to a problem.
His overall point was criticizing how Gale's point amounted to, don't have this problem, you fucking chuckle fuck for brains. What you're doing with this part of the interjection is something that Kirby debunks in his own video, making this point fucking null and void.
That is crazy considering me, personally, I hate running into wild Pokemon non-stop, leading stability, at least at number 10, because you can always stock up on repels and it doesn't really sound that bad.
Illuminate only takes effect when the Pokemon with the ability is in the front of your party. So here's a crazy idea, Relic Boy. Switch your team around. Secondly, let's have a look at the list of Pokemon that can have this ability that you show, shall we? Volbeat, Watchog, the Staryu line, the Chinchou line, and Morlo. All of these Pokemon have alternate abilities, so it's not like you're restricted to Illuminate or anything.
Hey, remember when I said that having ways to get around the ability doesn't change the point about the ability being bad? Yeah. This is a constant problem throughout the commentary. A good chunk of Enigma and Gale's points are bringing up ways to avoid the ability rather than actually giving any reason for why it's good.
So, what's so good about it? I know the answer, but if you're not going to bring up the good, then why bring it up? The answer for the good is an easier time of trying to get the Pokemon you want on your team. Feel free to add a counter argument or more on the good.
Why the hell should Kirby have to explain why the ability is good? They're not the ones making the claim that the ability is good because the point of their comment isn't with the intent to solely prove Relic wrong. Hell, for all you know, Kirby and Luxor could actually agree with Relic that the ability is bad.
Now this ability is only available for 3 Pokemon, but number 8 is Trant. Basically, this ability lets the Pokemon Slack Off, Slacking, and Durant attack every other turn. And yes, I said Durant, it's its hidden ability, but do you know what can happen in those every other turn? You can just kill the Pokemon, you can set up, you can heal, you can do anything, and it will like be loafing around. So in a nutshell, this ability just sucks and make fighting Norman Slacking much easier even when at low level.
Actually, funny story about that. There's a move that Durant can learn called Entrainment, which gives the opponent the ability of the user. Durant can give Truant to other Pokemon and potentially force switches. Slacking has access to Recovery and Slack Off, and it has incredible stats alongside a move pool the depth of a Miriana's Trench, making it a viable staller and tank.
Okay, that Durant example of yours is incredibly shaky. Sure, you can get use out of it, but said usage is specifically by having the opponent suffer from the ability. If a strategy is to give the ability to your opponent for the sake of hindering them, that would just speak for why it would be a bad ability for a Pokemon to have.
So basically, a double-edged sword. You're going to ignore the fact that this can apply to your situation as well? In fact, you say something good about it, and yet you say it's a bad thing? At least that's what you're implying. Next time, clarify.
His point was that because you could give a bad ability to your opponent to hinder them, that would show that the ability is not worth having to begin with. Yeah, you can give your opponent the ability, hell that was flat out said in the context, but if you need to hinder your opponent in order to make them useful, then guess what? It's still a bad ability because at the end of the day, that shit can still hinder you by having the ability in the first place.
This one is where the bullshit starts. This ability is only available to Archean and Archeops, but in the number 7 spot, we have the ability Defeatist, which basically lowers Archean and Archeops' attack and special attack in half when its HP is below 50%. It's basically a pile of garbage if you can't take out the other Pokemon before that happens, or unless you have a Citrus Berry on it to save the day, you're just gonna be stuck with a weak mon at lower than half health.
Citrus Berry? Teach it Roost. That move recovers half its health every time it's used, so when it's at just over half, it's right back at full.
So, even ignoring how none of this changes Relic's complaints towards Defeatist, the issue with this workaround is that using Roost would take 1 turn to use, which would either leave Archeops open for an attack or give the opponent time to set up. Sure, using a Citrus Berry would take up an item slot, but it wouldn't leave Archeops in a vulnerable position like Roost would.
The fact that using Roost leaves them open for an attack speaks against the ability even further. Due to alternate Archeops having mediocre HP and defensive stats, it really wouldn't be too hard to bring them down to less than half health again.
Double Battles, Follow Me, and Roost. They do bring up double battles later on, but this should apply to this situation. I will admit that she barely forgets this and doesn't bring it up at the right time, but it still applies here. I am aware of my contradiction, but to be honest, it was more on the points anyway.
First off, can you, not leave in things that you're not gonna argue against? You kinda just leave Luxor's interjection in there and you don't even bother to address it. You can skip his argument if you're not gonna talk about it, just acknowledge that you skipped this part because you thought it was valid or whatever reason. But onto your point itself, Kirby was specifically talking in context of single battles. Yes, you do state that they talk about double battles later on, but they don't bring up the concept of double battles here, so we can easily come to the conclusion that they're referring to single battles. So really bring up how you can use the double battle, Follow Me, and Roost technique doesn't work here. To add on to my point, this would only apply if Archeops was in the middle of a double battle to begin with, which when compared to the rate that you find single battles is only a small chunk. So really, what if you're not in a double battle then? If the strategy is only good within a certain battle format, assuming that what you gave actually works, then the strategy is only going to be good in that specific situation.
Also, if the mod that Archeops is going up against is that much of a threat, there's another solution. Just switch it out.
You heard it here first, folks. If a Pokemon is in a bad position, just switch it out. Clearly, this makes up for Defeatist having Archeops' offensive stats. But seriously, out of all the workarounds you two brought up so far, this is probably the worst one. Because even though your previous suggestions didn't change how the ability itself was flawed, they were at least trying to bring up ways to make the Pokemon viable. This one doesn't even do that, because telling Relic to switch out Archeops is essentially telling him to completely ignore the problem, which doesn't even show the benefits of using Archeops on its own, let alone its ability.
Ignoring the fact that he should be thinking about the situation objectively if not subjectively, I don't care if it's his opinion. Pokemon battles are about strategy. If you're going to make a claim like that, then I have the least to believe that you care about what's objective and what's subjective. You claim that he's lazy, and yet you're being lazy yourself because I want to see what's given to me. You can put on hypocrisy, but I'm not wrong. Not to mention I focused on what I said in the beginning of the video with the hiccup.
Okay, this is an issue I have with your wording throughout the entire video. You move through your points so fast to the point where I have to guess in order to actually understand what in the world you're saying. I'll be going into more detail about this issue in my final thoughts, so stay tuned for that, I guess. But if I can guess what you're trying to get at with this point, I think what you're trying to say is that because Pokemon is about strategy, then that means that switching out the Pokemon should be the strategy to use for whenever Archeops is in a bad position. But this doesn't debunk Luxor's point, because his point was that telling Relic to switch out doesn't prove that Archeops' ability isn't shit. Like, yeah, one would normally switch out if there was a Mon that was a threat. However, his point was based off of the fact that their point doesn't change the fact that the Fetus is a piss poor ability. Also, small bit of criticism, but when the hell did Luxor claim that Enigma and Gale were being lazy in this part of the video? In fact, you never really showed any interest in them saying this up to this point, unless they said this in a part you skipped, but I shouldn't have to go to the video to prove this for you.
So that means that it only works in double battles. You're probably gonna need 2 electric types because they're the only types that can have this ability. And let's just take a moment to realize that most of the game are in single battles. So in a nutshell, the ability sucks unless you're willing to capture 2 electric types with those abilities for just a couple of double battles.
As for your single player or campaign argument, places like the Battle Subway, several trainer double battles, and the Pokemon World Tournament poke holes here. Also in Generation 5, you can do wild double battles in the dark grass.
He said that most of the game is in single battles. He never said double battles don't exist, just that it's the minority, so bringing them up does nothing.
To quote Shellstar1224, an opinion means nothing if you can't back it up or say why it is your opinion. He is being lazy to not put the effort to come up with an argument. If you want to argue that he did, then why should he do single battles with a plus or minus ability? Basing opinions on facts can also lead to someone being shot in the foot by another fact if that was the case. I expect effort on your part, but no! It's a disgrace to true strategists. The ones that think. I am aware of randomness, but this takes trial and error. And now rambling. Moving on.
Okay, ignoring the fact that I can barely understand what point you're trying to get at, Wonderworld does this jumbled mess of words through to Kirby's point saying that Relic was saying that double battles are a minority. He never even said it was a good idea to have these abilities outside of double battles, just that the majority of anyone's playthrough has you fight in single battles, so it feels pointless using an ability that, doesn't work in singles. Like, literally nothing about opinions was even mentioned here, so what the fuck were you trying to do? Unless you made this point by randomly pointing at words in a dictionary, which honestly wouldn't be surprising given how this video turned out.
You're basing your entire argument on a hypothetical.
Wait, hold the fuck up. Joshua, did you just cut out the context to what Gale and Enigma were responding to?
Moody increases a random stat by 2 stages and lowers another random stat by 1. Let's say you're a physical attacker with Moody and keep getting your defense or any other stat that you really don't need raised and your attack or speed lowered. Obviously that's not going to be a good time. I get that the stat you prefer may get raised, but it's random every turn and it might get lowered the next time. So having Moody is just really luck based, and that's why it's so high up on the list at number 2 today.
Like, really, what was the point of getting rid of important context? This will only confuse new viewers who haven't seen Luxor and Kirby's video, or hell, even Enigma and Gale's video for that matter. Now someone might say, oh, it's because you didn't want the context to drag out more than necessary, but 1, I'll bring up something later that completely destroys that claim, 2, that's a reason, not an excuse, and 3, there's such a thing as speeding a certain section of a video up. Commentators, including me, do this all the time in order to give the context while not having the video drag out in the process. Now, someone could easily bring up the hypothetical that Joshua has an editor that doesn't allow him to speed up clips, which in that case, at the very least, put text on the screen telling when the world was skipped, because at least then we will get an idea of what Relic was talking about.
You're basing your entire argument on a hypothetical when Moody is completely randomized.
Hey there, Mr. Star Warrior, do you want to play a game?
I'm down. What's the game?
How many times have Gale and Enigma used hypothetical arguments throughout their commentary?
Fuck it, I give up.
The answer is a lot. During the Leaf Guard segment, Gale spent a minute and a half saying how aromatherapy can be used in tandem with Leaf Guard in order to help out Sunny Day teams, and Enigma made an argument on how status ailments can be harmful if they're used in the battle. Then there's the Defeatist segment, where Gale says that Archeops could use Roost, or could be switched out in order to circumvent the drawbacks of Defeatist. The entirety of the Slow Start segment could be summed up with Gale bringing up hypothetical strategies to work around that ability. In the Normalize segment, Enigma made a big argument about how Normalize can benefit weather teams, and Gale argued that Dokkaebi can use both types if it knows Foresight. And in the Cut segment in particular, their arguments relied heavily on an extremely specific strategy that assumes the opponent is using a Heatrotom with a Flame Orb and an item swapping move. You two have been arguing hypotheticals for a good chunk of this commentary, but even ignoring that, making hypothetical arguments isn't inherently a bad thing. As long as the hypothetical scenario makes sense and is likely to happen, then that can show how often an ability can work for or...
Joshua, calm down with the fucking scissors. Cut at the right place, damn it.
What about overalls?
Oh yeah, I know about overalls. Some people look dumb in them, but I still like them nonetheless.
Combined possibilities for an overall answer can basically be classified as fact. That's just a point with hypotheticals. They are cherry-picking / nitpicking. You can argue what I'm doing is nitpicking, but recording battles, analyzing, and calculations is what I'm arguing.
I mean, okay, that doesn't debunk Luxor's point, because just because overalls can be seen as fact, that wouldn't mean the hypotheticals are now off the table. Also, how in the hell are hypotheticals cherry-picking or nitpicking? Not helped by the fact that you don't explain further on your point about how they're either, so this just comes off as you throwing buzzwords around like a bag of candy.
Overall, I can understand the situation in videos outside this, not so much. And yes, this applies to Mortal Kombat as well, because people like comic don't put the effort. Transformers fan code retweeting. You can put effort in the statistics, and yeah, it's much better than mine. Heck, I could probably have someone else do the research. But really, the competitive player requires luck on the best strategy, so we can't get a straight answer. Signing off.
Yeah, Joshua, what is the relevance of bringing up Manga Comment and Transformers Fan Code 328 when they literally have nothing to do with the videos at hand? Like, it would make sense if you were criticizing others who happen to appear in the chain, like Enigma or Relic, but here you're bringing up people who don't matter at all to this video. Okay guys, get this. The commentary portion of this video ended at 10 minutes and 37 seconds of the actual video, but the video itself is actually 30 minutes and 36 seconds. You wanna know where the extra 20 minutes is spent? Into nothing but this picture with piano music playing in the background, of course. Joshua, I'm gonna address this with a hypothetical that this is either intentional or unintentional. If it's intentional, why? You keep on this image for 20 fucking minutes, especially since it's only an image with one sentence on it. Yeah, I think people don't need 20 minutes to read one goddamn sentence. If it's unintentional, then please try to prevent this from happening again, cause literally this is just filler to the video at hand and makes the video seem much longer than it actually is. Hell, you could use the YouTube trim tool to cut the video down to just the right time, whatever you feel that is. And we're stopping right here because, well, you know, so I guess we'll head on to my final thoughts. Joshua, this video was a mess, plain and simple. Most of your points were a bunch of jumbled words and nonsense that actually led me questioning if they did actually anything to Kirby and Luxor's point. Here's some advice. When making a point, try not to go to your next point immediately. At least have a transitional phrase to show that you're moving on to your next point. Otherwise, your interjections could give me and many others video whiplash, point whiplash, I don't fucking know. Point is, I think you should fix that. But even when I was able to pick apart what you actually tried to say, or at the very least what I thought you were trying to say, this was still a bad video. The points really didn't do much to Luxor and Kirby's video and often seemed like he tried to dodge them completely. Overall, this commentary just sucks.